So FM22 is now officially out, and that means just one thing. The FM22 in-game editor is now also out. So obviously when the news came out last night that the game was officially launched, the first thing I did was buy the in-game editor. Usually I like to do a video where I give a National League team £1 billion or something like that, but today we're going to do things slightly differently. I'm going to give every single team in my National League £1 billion. 23 billion dished out between the 23 teams. Then what I'm going to do is simulate into the future and see what happens. Which clubs can turn these riches into rewards? Which clubs are going to spend big quickly and then crash because they spend too much and they have big financial issues? And which clubs are just going to establish themselves as a steady club, just happening to have quite a lot of money in the bank? Ah, my dog's just arrived down here next to me. Look at the camera, Tess. Look at the camera. Say hello. What's that you're telling me? Everyone needs to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if they're new around here, because we're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers and we're not that far off. I mean, the dog has said it. Tessa said it. You've got to do it. I'm not entirely sure what to do with you now. You seem very comfortable sort of sat here. I've got to do a video. Okay, before I put you down, Tess, thanks for... I'm not looking really like that, if I'm honest with you. Before I put you down then, Tess, which team do you reckon here is going to get to the top the quickest, or the furthest? I'll let you know what she said at the end of the video. But as you can see, I've gone into every single team and I've given them all a bank balance of £1 billion, a transfer budget of £1 billion, and the maximum wage budget of 5 million. Is it 5 million or 500 million? 5 million as the maximum wage budget. When I say I've given every single club £1 billion, that it's not quite true. You see, I'm a Lincoln City fan, so I couldn't quite bring myself to do it for Grimsby. So instead they've got minus 100 million. Only seems fair. But as I say, I set this up last night, and then when I went to sleep, I simulated it through the evening, and we've got about 20 years into the future. I've not looked at any of the results yet, so it's going to be as much a surprise to me as it is for you guys. So 20 years worth of data. We'll come back at various little points throughout this, but we do want to have a quick look at Season 1 to start off with. And after Season 1, Stockport and Wrexham are the two teams that are promoted from the National League, which actually is exactly what the pre-season preview predicts. It does predict Stockport to come first and Wrexham to come second. If you aren't already aware, I am doing a save with Wrexham. If you aren't already aware, my main save on FM22 this year is going to be with Wrexham, and depending on when I upload this video, it's either come out or is coming out later on this evening, episode 1 that is. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link on top of the screen, and would love it if you could watch it. Dover, Borehamwood and Halifax were the teams relegated. Dover is no surprise. They're given a minus 12-point deduction at the start of the season anyway for various different reasons, I think. But interestingly, Grimsby came 7th, which is a playoff spot in the National League, despite the fact they were given a 10-point deduction because I've put them into administration. That was a bit of a byproduct of the minus £100 million or so, but you know, it's a welcome byproduct. Season 1, because all these clubs are pretty low reputation, there were no major transfers or anything like that. Well, actually no, these are major transfers, but they're not like for millions and millions of pounds as you might expect. They are saving their money nicely, I think, right now. Just as a quick control, let's have a quick look at Stockport County. Edit club details, finances. They've somehow spent 250 million because they got 755. So what have they spent their money on? Well, it's not a new stadium because they're still at Edgeley Park, although if it was built inside of a season, then that would be a little bit weird, right? Maybe wages are some of it, but it's not going to account for £2.5 million worth of wages, because they are paying some big wages. I mean, it's nearly £7,000 for this guy, which is a lot for this division, but I don't know where the money's gone. I might just quickly make myself the Stockport manager, if I can spell Stockport correctly, just so I can see this. Interestingly, bank balance is 755 million, but on the graph it says 1 billion there, and it just stays at 1 billion the whole way. Although it does say expenditure this month. Oh, it could all be tax, you know. It could all be tax. That might be what it is. This other. Oh, well, I don't know what. It's not tax. I mean, tax is still significant, nearly £1 million. Other. That doesn't really help me out. Expenses such as advertising, supplies and general expenses. And that all came this month, apparently. I wonder what that actually would be. Anyway, we've seen Season 1. Let's jump into, I think, Season 5. Go a few years down the line and see what happens. So we'll start off with the National League, and there's still quite a lot of teams that are familiar in here. As you would expect, you know, there's only been 2 teams promoted every single year and 4 getting relegated, or 3 getting relegated in the first season. So there's not going to be too much of a change. The teams that come up are likely the ones that keep getting relegated. So it's going to be a long time until every single team, like your Hartlepools or your Kings Lyns, are going to get out of this division. But if we look at the past winners, Bradford City, who got relegated, got immediately promoted. The same with Chesterfield by looks of things as well. So that's interesting. The teams getting relegated, despite having nowhere near as much money, still have the playing squads available to get themselves back promoted. That's going to limit some of these teams even more. But County and Woking also promoted. Boreham Wood, Aldershot, Southend, Bromley and Wrexham, of course, all being promoted via the playoffs. I am interested. Since Season 1, our transfers getting bigger. Season 2, yeah, the biggest one was £300,000 to Bromley as well in this division. Chesterfield spent nearly £1 million on a guy from Bradford, but neither of those teams were given £1 billion. I know Chesterfield might have been, actually. Wait, what division are Chesterfield in? Yeah, they are in the National League. I must have forgot they were in there. I must have think they're better than they actually are. So actually, yes, Chesterfield did have a lot of money. They've spent a big chunk of that. Well, not a big chunk. A tiny chunk of it on a player from Bradford. Season afterwards, not quite as big. And then the season we've just had, we're getting to a few deals towards £500,000. What about League 2 then? What about if we go upwards? What teams can we see from the National League that have maybe been promoted? Looks like Stockport County have done pretty well in this current season right now. They are being promoted to League 1. We can see here as well on the past winners page that Wrexham have been promoted themselves too. Southend have got themselves back up, but they're not doing particularly well in League 2. County are in there, Bromley are in there, so there's some decent teams. And if we look into League 1, obviously Wrexham should be there, and they've just lost the playoff final, I've just seen. They came third in League 1. They lost the playoff final to QPR. But I don't believe there's any other teams that were in the National League at the start of this experiment in League 1. And I don't think there's going to be any in the Championship either. If we look at the Championship, no, none of them. Okay, well, we're seeing some progress then. A few teams are taking the lead. Obviously, Wrexham, and now following them, Stockport County are going to be in League 1. As Wrexham have got the furthest, we'll have a little look at these guys. Oh my word. I mean, just look at this wage column here. Look at this wage column. In fact, what we can do is switch to the experiment view because this has a few extra things like players' consistency and important matches and current ability and potential ability. But the wages are mental. League 1, this guy's being paid £61,000 a week. Interestingly, James Jones is still there. He's a former Lincoln City player who left Lincoln to join Wrexham in the National League in real life. And it obviously paid off for him because he's now on £53,000 a week. He's not been that good, but they have brought in Ivan Saponic, which I think I'm saying wrong, but he's a pretty decent player. So obviously Wrexham's reputation has done pretty well, but also they've signed decent players who have no business playing in League 1. I mean, he was literally in the Portuguese Premier League before this. Okay, 10 years into the future now, and as you can see, Altrincham have just won the National League, with Kings Lynn being promoted in 2031. A few more teams winning the title as well. Woking, Maidenhead, Yeovil, Solihull Moors, Eastleigh, Altrincham, so all teams that were in the National League to start off with. And they are sort of holding around the same place in competition reputation. The money's not really helped the reputation out massively because they are going up and down. They keep staying around the sort of 90 to 95 mark. Again, to have a little bit of an idea of how much money is being spent by these clubs, let's just go through some of these transfers. So £500,000 there, also players joining Boreham Wood. The season afterwards, not a whole lot of money being spent there. The biggest one, £210,000. Season afterwards, we start to get the first deals over £1 million. Yeovil buying a player for over £2 million in the end there, which is pretty crazy for the National League. Season afterwards, it drops right back down, and actually the biggest one in the division, joining the division, was £275,000 from Newport County to Eastleigh. 2030 is a £300,000 deal to Blackpool, so I think that's actually leaving the division. The biggest one is again £275,000 to Eastleigh. And then we get to this season, where suddenly Altrincham, in their promotion year, blow the transfer record out the water by spending £4.2 million on Adam Lucas, who's a regen. Is he any good? I mean, based on the fact he's got 15 appearances and a 6.6 average rating, no. No, he's terrible. 135 potential ability, that may be good enough for the championship or something like that. 105 current ability at the age of 22, he's probably not going to get there, you know. I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised. Anyway, looking into League 2, you can see on the past winners here, there's a few teams that have won it. So Bromley and Southend have both got themselves promoted in recent years. Chesterfield are up there. Bromley obviously got relegated and back promoted once again. Solihull Moors and Barnet, well, Barnet just avoided relegation, but Solihull Moors are going back down again. That's not so good for them, but teams like Torquay, Eastleigh, Aldershot, they've established themselves in this division. But I think there should be more teams. So let's look into League 1, where can we see any of the teams that Southend are in there doing very, very well. Woking are up there too. That's good to see. Notts County are back in League 1. Dagenham and Redbridge are up there. Yeovil just got relegated, but still, we're seeing some teams that we've not yet seen. Wrexham or Stockport, the two big ones. Looking into the Championship, I can see Wrexham. They're 7th place right now. So only just missing out on playoffs. In fact, no, they just missed out on playoffs till it's 3rd down to 6th in playoffs, isn't it? So very annoying for them to miss out on those Premier League playoffs. We'll look at these guys in a second. Stockport a little bit further down. And I think that's probably everyone. I don't think anyone will have made the Premier League just yet. No. Barnsley are in there though, so I'm sure there's some Barnsley fans who are pretty happy. So Wrexham then. Wrexham. Let's have a quick look at your transfer history. How much money are you spending? Stupid amounts. This past season, 89 million in the Championship. 22 of which is spent on this guy from Preston, a Colombian regen, centre mid. 22 million. That's a big price to pay. How good is he? 134 current ability, 155 potential. Actually, he has got potential on him. I'll give them that. That's not a bad deal. I mean, it's a bit pricey maybe, but still, he'll be very good in the future. He's classed, or would have been classed, as a wonder kid. There's a guy called Jude from Tottenham, who is an English 27-year-old, a real-life player. There's no picture for him in my picture album thing that I've got, but he's moved around for a fair bit and was playing, well, kind of on the fringe of the Premier League football. Had a very good season for Wrexham, though, and he has got 149 potential. So again, that's probably Premier League level. I assume they are paying a lot for these players, and they are. 2 players on £93,000 a week. Most players over £40,000 a week. Wow, okay. What about Stockport? Transfer history. What have they been doing? They spent £41 million this season, the biggest which was a guy from Sheffield United for £18 million. A real guy playing for Stockport right now. Obviously, big move from Sheffield United for him. Big move from Sheffield United to Stockport. They didn't really play much for Sheffield United and didn't actually play much for Stockport either, to be fair. Let's have a quick look at his attributes. Probably not worth the 20 million or so they spent on him. Stockport notably are not spending as much money. In fact, no player over 50 grand a week, whereas most players probably were in the Wrexham team. So they're not quite spending as much money. In terms of potential ability, I think in general the squad's just not as good as well, really. What I would be interested though, have they got new stadiums first and foremost? If we look for, no, they haven't. Both still at the Racecourse Ground and Edgeley Park, still the smaller stadiums there. Surprised they've not done that, actually, if I'm honest with you. I would have thought they might have done. I assume both clubs must on facilities. They've now got excellent training, good youth facilities, only level 2 youth academy, and only adequate junior and youth recruitment at Wrexham. I'm surprised they've not put more into that, if I'm honest with you. Stockport County, they have facilities, superb and great, so better facilities, average, adequate, slightly better junior coaching and youth recruitment. Again, they should have put more money into that, I feel. And they're still paying 80 grand a year in rent for their stadium. They've not even bought it out. They have all the money in the world and they've not bought it. Also very telling that Wrexham have the biggest wage bill in the Championship. If they don't get promoted soon, that's going to become a big issue for them. And to be fair, Stockport is 4th. I mean, we didn't think they had that big compared to Wrexham, but they're still the 4th biggest spenders in the Championship. So I think we'll go forward once again. We'll go to 20 years this time around and right to the very end of my simulations. So at the very end of this experiment then, we'll start off with the National League, which has taken a bit of a plummet recently in competition, reputation, rankings. But there are still teams in here who just appear to have never been promoted despite being given all the money in the world. I mean, Kingsland and Boreham would have just got up there. Halifax are still there. Shrewsbury weren't ever in there in the first place. Ignore I said that one. Dover are still there. Solihull Moors are still there, but they have had promotion. We did see that earlier on. So there's a few teams still kicking around, but it looks like most of them are out of it now. League 2 currently being dominated by Chesterfield with Dagenham and Redbridge just behind them. We've got other teams in here like, well, I mean, Wealdstone, we never gave them money, but Wealdstone have done pretty well to get to League 2. Yeovil are in there, Aldershot are in there. So there's a few teams milling around. Oh, Altrincham, by the way, just got relegated. You hate to see that. Looking into League 1, no one promoted from the division this time around that we care about in particular. Notts County are still nicking around there. Woking are there. Maidenhead are there. But everyone else, I believe, is not. So does this mean the Championship now is like full of these clubs? Championship. Let's have a look at this. Let's look at the full league table, please. Stockport are in there. Okay. Southend are in there. Bromley are in there. Is that it? I feel like we've not seen many teams. Like, we've not seen the 23 original teams, so unless they're on the Premier League. But I don't think they are, because we've not seen many Premier League teams being dropped down, apart from teams like West Ham, maybe. Looking into the Premier League, and Wrexham are there. I mean, they have been relegated, but Wrexham are there. Wrexham managed to get themselves to the Premier... And they've not done much else other than that, clearly, but they've got themselves to the Premier League. Still playing at the racecourse ground. You hate to see that. I mean, I thought they would have got a new stadium by now. Although Ryan Reynolds is not in charge anymore. He sold it off to some Qatari blokes, so... I don't know. He just didn't want to build a new stadium, I guess. They are still spending an absolute fortune on their players as well, but their playing squad isn't, mental, if I'm honest with you. No one over 150 current ability, which is probably why they got relegated. In terms of potential ability, there's no one really coming through the ranks that's got potential. Maybe this keeper from the Congo, but I don't know. There's not a huge amount of quality in this team, and they've not really done much more with their facilities either. And their stadium is currently reduced by 955 because they are building a few more seats, an extra 2,000 or so, 3,000 or so. Why not a new stadium? I'll be honest, that's caught me off guard a little bit. I thought we might see someone within 20 years. I mean, within 20 years, it's actually pretty impressive to get to the Premier League, right, starting in the National League. But still, I thought with £1 billion, we might see a little bit more, especially with the money they're spending. I mean, this season, 119 million. The season before that, 103. 41 seems pretty modest, but then it goes up to 81, 121, and before that you can kind of see here 15 and so forth until we get to that like 80 odd million pounds that they spent in that season we saw last. I am for all the money they're spending. How many years had they been in the Premier League, by the way? One year. They got promoted there, finishing 6th, won the playoffs, never got automatic promotion. So that was their first and only season in the Premier League as well. For all the money they're spending, I'm shook. To be fair to them, actually, they are only down to their last 690 million. So they are making money back. It's not like they've spent it all. They're not being unsustainable. This is sustainable spending for them now, which is actually really surprising. I'll be honest, 20 seasons, I thought we'd see a little bit more than this. So I am tempted to go further with this, maybe. I'm tempted to go further and try and see if we can get anything further down the line. So if you want to see that, let me know down in the comments section below. Also, the dog's gone, but at the start of the video, she did say to me, by the way, Tom, it's going to be Wrexham who do the best. Mystical, telepathic dog. That's what she is. She knew the answer straight away. Anyway, thank you very much for watching today's video. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And of course, if you have done, make sure you do drop a like on the video for me. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and leave a comment down below for the YouTube algorithm. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Enjoy playing FM, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.